Are you holding back from speaking up because you're afraid of being judged or not being perfect? If you feel like your voice is stuck or perfectionism is paralyzing you, this episode is exactly what you need. So, in this episode, we'll show you how to use your voice as your brand, master the confidence to speak up anywhere, and break free from the trap of perfectionism. You've got a message burning inside. Don't let fear hold you back. So, stay with us because by the end, you'll have the tools to transform how you show up and speak. All right, hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Business with Ritz, where we humanize entrepreneurship by showcasing the human behind the title before the offer. I'm your host, Ritzel Rectra, and today's episode is all about you, your voice, your brand, and how to break free from perfectionism. My guest today is a voice coach who's here to help you find confidence to speak up in any situation. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started and make sure your voice is heard. All right, so we are now in the Know the Expert segment, and our guest today is known or is someone who know the power of speaking up even when it feels difficult. Let me just show. All right. So this is her caption in our thumbnail. Stop shrinking, start speaking. All right. Okay, now I'm excited to introduce you to today's expert guest. I hope I can pronounce her surname correctly. Liz Hodge. So we'll correct that later. She is a voice teacher and speaker coach with over 30 years of experience, and she's worked with entrepreneurs, women, and the LGBTQ community as well, helping them reclaim their bold voices to deliver transformative messages. So, if you've ever struggled with perfectionism or felt like you're holding back when it's time to speak, our guest for today, let me just put her on stage, okay? So, I'm not talking by myself. So, okay. All right. So, Liz is going to walk us through how to transform that. So, you'll learn how to make your voice a key part of your personal brand and connect more deeply with your audience. So, stay tuned. This episode could change the way you speak and the way your business grows. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Miss Liz Hodge.
There you go. Yeah, thank you so much.
Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yeah, you did. That's great. Thank you.
All right. Liz, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you doing?
Doing great. Just had a little technical difficulty just a while back. All right. Now let's get to know the person behind the title. Are you ready, Liz?
I hope so.
All right. Okay, so let's start with the first question. Let me just change the angle. Here we go. Okay. Um, who is Liz Hodge as a person?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm a mom. I have two wonderful adult daughters and a voice teacher, of course. I've been singing pretty much all my life, and yeah, and actor and entrepreneur, and yeah, so I've a little bit of everything. A lifetime learner, lifetime student
Wow.
for sure.
All right, all right. We all are.
Yeah.
All right, so Liz, what's one important lesson you've learned when starting your business that other online entrepreneurs could benefit from?
Yeah, it's definitely a long game. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. There's you really have to um, plan ahead and make sure that you get really good coaching for sure. That's really, really helped a lot as well.
All right. Now, can you tell us a bit more about how you started as a voice teacher and speaker coach?
Uh-huh. Well, like I said, I've sung all my life, and around in my teenage years, I wanted to be in a group in high school, a singing group, and I didn't make it the first time. I auditioned, and it was not very good. So I decided to take some voice lessons and found out I had this big operatic voice. So next time I did make it, and so I have my master's degree in vocal performance, and um, was performing and also teaching, and just realized I love to teach, and
Mhm.
so I taught for many, many years, and then what I found was people were starting to come to me for singing lessons, but really what they wanted was coaching for their voices for speaking. So I moved
Oh,
into that area as well. So yeah, so there was a need for that, especially with women.
that's interesting. Um, Now it's time for our lightning round of questions. Are
Okay.
you ready, Liz?
Yeah.
All right, short and sweet. What's your favorite word and why?
Ooh, enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah, I think a lot of energy, just a lot of positive energy, and that shows up in your work, that shows up in your life,
Right?
and your relationships. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Oof. Oof. But I think maybe tea. Yeah.
Tea. All right. So if you weren't a voice coach, what would you be doing?
Hmm. Either marine biology or
Oh,
archaeology.
interesting. That's very interesting. It's like a complete 360.
You're a complete opposite.
Right. Okay, next. Uh, Cats or dogs?
Cats. Yeah, but I love dogs too. Yeah, I have a cat. I have a 14-year-old cat. His name is Sirius Black, and he's
Wow. Like the Harry Potter Sirius Black?
yeah, yeah. My kids named him, so yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, what's one thing that you can't live without?
Oh, my kids. Yeah. Mhm.
Right. What's one book that has had a huge impact on your business journey?
Ooh, I think The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Yeah,
The Power of Now.
definitely. Just really teaching me to be very present with what I'm doing, and not kind of worry about the past or worry about the future. Just to be really present with what I'm doing right now. Yeah.
Right. Okay, next question. Introvert or extrovert?
Oh, introvert. Yeah, for sure. I might seem extroverted, but I'm an
Same
introvert.
here. Same here. All right. So what's one thing most people don't know about you?
Oh my. Gee, don't know.
All
I
right.
hadn't thought about that one before, so too much.
All right.
I'm pretty much an open book, so everybody knows pretty much everything. So,
All right. Pass. Pass. Okay.
yeah.
How would your friends describe you in 3 words?
Oh, empath, warm, and fun.
One. All right. Okay. Now, last question is a little bit serious. All
Okay.
right. So, if you are like talking to your younger self right now, what
Mhm.
advice would you give your younger self?
Well, kind of going into our topic a little bit is don't try to be perfect. Yeah,
Right.
it'll never happen.
Sweet and simple. All right. Awesome. That was an insightful lightning round of questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we've gotten to know Liz a bit more personally. But, trust me, there's so much more to uncover. So
Mm-hmm.
in the next segment, Liz is going to share how you can use your voice as your brand and speak with confidence, so even if perfectionism has been holding you back. So if you've been looking for ways to step up and get your message out there, stick around, everyone. This is where it gets practical and powerful. So let's step right in. Here we go. All right, welcome back, amazing fam bams. Your voice isn't just something you use to communicate. It's the foundation of your personal brand. So, but how do you fully own that voice? And make sure perfectionism doesn't silence it. So, let's dive in and find out. All right, so let's go and our topic. Here we go. So, Liz,
Mm-hmm.
our topic for today is your voice is your brand. So, how to speak with confidence and overcome perfectionism. So, how can someone break free from the pressure to be perfect and start using their voice as a creative tool for personal branding?
Yeah, well, that's quite a complex subject. So let's start a little bit with why we speak, right? Because that's kind of, if you have a big why, then it makes it easier to jump in. Um, I really believe that everybody has an inner unique genius that is
Mhm.
really just dying to be expressed,
Right.
and really learning to listen to what I call those bigger voices that come from within that compel us to speak.
Mhm.
So, really, your big why as to why you're speaking is really important, and it really goes beyond, selling your business or kind of selling your service or whatever. But it's really working with the client, uh, your ideal client. So
Right.
getting in front of your ideal client
Right.
and really being able to speak that. So really, what we work with when I have clients that are working with me on this is we really discover what that inner purpose is, or that inner genius is. So we really work on some discovery about that, and it
Mhm.
really can come from a struggle that they've had or a gift that they have that they really need to speak about. So what we talk about is really finding that tipping point or that trigger that compels you to speak. So, for instance, if it's a health problem that they've had themselves or close
Mhm.
somebody close to them or something like that, they may become a health coach, or they may become somewhere in the healthcare business, or if they're working with autistic kids or something like that, maybe that's their topic that they must speak about. So it really depends on that particular person's struggle or their gifts and what that tipping point is.
Mhm.
So that's a really important part of it. So that gives you, in a way, that starts to give you confidence as you really kind of discover what that inner genius is that compels you to speak. So that's the first part of it. And then what we do is we work on developing a story around that that's transformative. So what I mean by transformative is you really are working to communicate with your ideal clients, your ideal audience. It really doesn't do any good to really get in front of anybody or
Mhm.
everybody. We really want to know who our niche audience is and be able to get in front of them. So, for instance, my niche is women and the LGBTQ community. So, these are uh, communities in which our voices have been silenced or quieted or overlooked historically. So, um, I feel like it's my vision, my big vision, my big dream is to change the culture of speaking for these groups of people,
Yeah.
and so that's my ideal group. And so I'm not going to go and talk to any group. Those are the groups that I want to get in front of and speak. And so everybody has their niche audience. And so you want to make sure that you're really getting on in front of these people. So whether it's on stage or social media or webinars or um, events, anything, right? So
Yeah.
like this one, right?
Right. Right.
So getting in front of your ideal clients is one of the most important things. And here again, if you're narrowing things down and you're not trying to grab whoever, um, that's kind of the ideal situation, because our messages aren't for everybody, right? And that's a good thing. You want to make sure that you're really
Right. So we have the why. Mm.
right. So that's the why, and then
And the story.
yeah, so then we're developing the story, and that can take many, many shapes. So, Steve, I like to use Steve Jobs as an example because he's a wonderful storyteller, and he really had a very specific shape or specific structure in which he spoke.
Yep.
So if you look at kind of the iPhone introduction video on YouTube, he's building, 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 building. It's just a really wonderful, wonderful exposition of how he um, revealed, kind of the big reveal at the end, is really wonderful. So we really develop these transformative stories through these bigger voices that we listen to from our internal voices like that. So that's kind of how we start to work on the storytelling aspect of it. And then we work on the vocal part of it. So I call
Mhm.
this the kind of the support system. So we actually work on vocal things. So what I've done is I've taken things that I've taught my singing students for many, many years. I've transferred a lot of those skills to my speaking clients. So
Mhm.
they're learning basically the same skill set that
Right.
I teach to my singers. So here again, it really gives them a lot of confidence because they're really working with the voice itself, really kind of getting the breathing down and the support, and really learning to embody the voice rather than kind of speaking from the neck up. And that's kind of what we tend to do. We kind of tend
Oh
to,
yeah. 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 That's
move
true.
our heads and all that kind of stuff about our speaking.
Oh,
And really,
especially when we are stressed, right, or we are so excited and talking.
exactly, exactly. And so, yeah, so really kind of embodying the voice, really making sure that you're breathing down into the pelvic floor, anchoring the breath into the pelvic floor, and really kind of keeping that keeping your body involved in it rather than kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, when we're excited, it's especially can be
Yeah.
kind of we can kind of lose that. So I do work with students on centering as well. So we tend to be kind of in our left brain a lot. That's kind of the way our culture works, and so. Um, what I do is I work with students to get them out of their left brain space into their right brain space. So we do
Wow.
some centering exercises that help to kind of bring the energy down from the head down into the pelvic floor and to the center of the body. So you're bringing the energy down. You're really very present because you're in that right brain space, which is a little bit more quiet. It's more creative. It's a way for us to kind of process thing and be very, very present to what we're doing rather
Mm.
than kind of worrying about the external voices of, or the internal voices, and
Ah,
so
yeah.
and
So
that's kind of
yeah.
where a lot of perfectionism comes from, is these
Right.
internal voices or their internalized voices from, you know, outer influences or outer values that come from other people rather than focusing on our own values.
Yeah. Yeah. So correct. So speaking of perfectionism, right? So how does perfectionism limit creativity, and how can embracing imperfections help build a stronger brand?
Yeah, so kind of defining it a little bit, Adam Grant, who is an author and an organizational psychologist, defines it as the desire to be flawless, to have zero deficiencies, zero defects, and to create an image of being superhuman. So,
Okay.
and so there are really three types of perfectionism. There's the internally oriented, which can actually be a personal personality trait or generational. And so that could be internalized voices of others. It could be other oriented, so you're being perfectionist toward other people,
Mm-hmm.
or socially prescribed perfectionism. And this is really a big problem in our culture with social media, beauty standards,
Yeah, yeah.
educational system, hustle culture, and all that kind of stuff. So, but from a personal point of view, mine was internalized voices from narcissistic relationships. And so this is kind of the way that a lot of people survive childhood,
Mhm.
is by listening to those voices that have been internalized. So in my example, I got my validation from my performance. So the better I performed, the more validation I got. Also with appearance as well. So I needed to appear perfect, and perfect weight and perfect clothes and all this kind of stuff. Um, and this came from my childhood, and so you get a lot of this type of internalized dialogue or monologue, is, if I'm perfect, I won't be punished, or I will be loved or liked or accepted.
Mhm.
I'll feel safe, So those types of things work in kind of survival mode for our in our childhood, but they don't work in our adulthood.
Yeah,
So,
true.
and this is where it starts to get stuck. We get stuck because that type of internalized voice really has a decreased, what I call return on investment, kind of like the things that really helped us in our childhood don't help us. It actually becomes a real problem,
Humans,
so
yeah.
we start to procrastinate. There's a real chronic stress element. So we start to get ill and, that kind of thing.
It's
And it
like
really,
psychosomatic thing, right?
yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, as far as our businesses are concerned, really, it really interferes with our creativity and innovation, because the perfectionists will really only try things that they feel like they'll be successful at. So there's a lot less risk taking. So there's it just will kind of stop you in your tracks, actually.
Mm.
And there's a lot of self-criticism because of that. We procrastinate. We don't really do what we really want to. There are things kind of in our heart that we don't express because we don't communicate, because we feel like, well, we're going to be rejected, or it's not
Right,
going to be
right.
perfect. And really, perfection, I always tell my students, we're not going to go to Carnegie Hall tomorrow, so give yourself some time to work through it, and I have my singing students like, yeah, we're not going to Broadway tomorrow, even next week, so because it's an ever moving goalpost, you can never quite get there. You can get to excellence, and that's kind of what what we want to go toward, is being is the best that we can possibly be and fulfill that
Mhm.
potential. But when you have this self-critical voice in your head,
Mm.
there's a lot of shame around that and not achieving that. And so what we want to do is we want to kind of bring the temperature down on that. Um, because we want to really, avoid that feeling of failure and feeling of embarrassment.
Right.
One of the things that helps is what I call precrastination. So it's backwards planning. So that's one of the things that you can do is, you have a date. For instance, today was our day. So going back, in preparation for this appearance, I would go back and kind of prepare for those types of things, right? So this is something I discovered when I was in college. You have a deadline for a paper, and so I realized, well, it takes me so long to do the research, so long to write the paper, and then I would like to leave it for, let it kind of incubate for a little bit, and that's a really good process as well, to kind of just let it go for a few days, come back to it, you look at it with new eyes, and then you can kind of really reassess, and you think, oh, then you have fresh thoughts, that you can add, or you can take away or whatever. The only problem with that is that you can do what I call get ready to get ready to get ready, right? You start over preparing, and you can get lost in the research, and go down the rabbit hole, kind of a thing. So that's kind of what you want to do, is you want to make sure that you're preparing enough, right?
Right.
So and not and,
point. Yeah,
and exactly, and you don't really want to kind of get into the space of anticipating what other people are going to think. Your message is your message, and your transformative story is your transformative story. And
well, a lot of people tend to do that.
Exactly, and so you want to think about your audience, but on the other hand, you really want to stick with your message. And this is a question that I get all the time is, well, what if there's that person in the front of, the front of the room that's, not open to you, and that there's a couple of answers to that. Number one, probably not your ideal client. So don't worry about it, right? Don't worry about it, because you're not going to get that person. The other one is, you don't know what that person is really thinking. They might have that look on their face just because they're concentrating on what you're saying. So it can mean a couple of things. But the thing is that you're not speaking to that one person. You are really, here again, sticking to your message, and don't alter it for that one person. Don't try to keep altering it and try to, spin your way out of it. You just really want to make sure that you're sticking to your transformative story, because that's who you are. That's your vision. And if you can kind of remember that, knowing your mission, that's your story. Your mission is your story, or your vision is your story.
Right.
And that's where we get that big why, and that's where you get your confidence from a lot of the time, is just really knowing your story, knowing what your mission is, and having that drive to fully embody that story.
All right. So when someone is ready to let go of that perfectionism, right? What creative exercises or techniques do you recommend to help them tap into their true voice and reflect in their brand?
Yeah. So freeing the voice, for sure. So we do a lot of vocal work, as far as kind of the like I said, the kind of the technical aspect of it. Really making sure that the breathing is nice and low, that you're really anchoring the breath in the pelvic floor, and making sure that the breathing, because everything kind of hinges on the breath. Without good breathing and support from the pelvic floor, then the voice is always going to have problems like vocal fatigue. I get a lot of people that have vocal fatigue, or they have vocal fry, so they're kind of talking down like this, and that's a very unsupported type of voice. So that's something that we work on just from a technical point of view. And then we work on the resonance, really using the bone structure actually to get the voice resonating, and yeah, really getting it into the body. And so that's really,
you're making me conscious now.
That's fine.
How am I doing?
You're doing great.
All right.
I know everybody thinks I'm judging them. It's like, I'm not.
No. Am I doing what she's saying?
No, you're doing well. So,
all right.
So yeah, no judgment, and that's the thing is people feel like they're being judged for their voices, and unfortunately in our culture that it happens a lot.
True.
It's the first thing that people notice about you is your appearance, right? The second
Right.
thing that they notice is your voice, right? So you're getting judged on your appearance, and then you're getting judged on how you speak.
Right.
And it's an unfortunate reality in our culture. Um, so so that's a part of what we do is kind of really get the voice going from a technical aspect. And here again, that starts to give you confidence, because if you feel good about how you're sounding and
Right.
how your voice is feeling, then that gives you your that boldness, right? It kind of brings that up to the forefront of what you want to do. So
Right. So
yeah,
that's the transformations that we typically see, right, on the personal growth, and as well as it will transcend into their business as well, right?
exactly. So yeah, and it really transforms people, kind of having their voice and feeling grounded in their voice, and then they can really start to communicate rather than just speaking, um, and kind of giving information. That's another thing that we talk about when we're when I'm working with speakers is there we have two jobs as speakers:
Mm-hmm.
to create connection. So
Mm-hmm.
that's that heart to heart communication, that's exchange of energy that we have with our audience,
Mm-hmm.
and create curiosity. So those are the two things that are our job when we're in front of an audience. So, and this is a mistake that I made early on in my speaking career, is I did a speaking engagement, and I'm a natural teacher, so it's like I wanted to teach,
Right.
I
So
wanted to give
information
everything.
download.
Yeah, I wanted to give all the information. I wanted to give all my knowledge, and it was
Right.
just great, and yeah, crickets. It was awful, and that's what I learned is I didn't make any kind of heart connection with my audience. I didn't create any kind of curiosity. They had, after that, it was kind of like the reaction that the host gave was, "Wow, that was a lot of information."
Right.
Right. And so I literally wanted to hide under the desk. It was I was very embarrassed, and it was a big learning experience for me, that it's just,
Mm.
that's
Indeed. Indeed.
not,
Yeah.
when you're speaking, that's not what you want to do. They don't want all
Right.
the information. They want a transformative story. They want to be transformed in a way in which they want to come with you on your journey, right? So that's a really important part
Right.
of the storytelling.
Right. So that's so inspiring. Confidence and connection
Hmm.
truly go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
So this is really is a fantastic insight, Liz. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this wonderful uh, learn from the expert segment that you just shared with us
Thank
today.
you.
Right now, I'm sure our audience has some burning questions for you.
Okay.
So let's open the Q&A. I believe I have gathered some questions around. But let me just play the segment title so that we can easily repurpose this video later on. All right. Okay, so let's start with the first question. Short and sweet answer as well. So first question, what can I do to stop overthinking everything I say?
Mm. Yeah. So this is one of those things where you want to make sure that you're actually preparing and practicing. Rehearsal is a very important part of it. You don't want to sound mechanical, like you're like an AI machine or something like that.
Right.
You do want to have your personality in it for sure, but it's one of those things where you do want to practice what you're going to be saying, and then it becomes more automatic. And the more you practice it, the more you do it. Really start with with podcasts. Start with small, speaking to small groups. Those
Right.
types of things. So the more you get out there, the more you do it, the more you're going to feel very comfortable with your material. And here again, it's your transformative story. So it's really coming from your heart. And if you're really thinking about making that heart-to-heart connection with your clients or with your audience, then it's going to be a lot easier. You're not going to overthink it as much.
All right. Thank you for that. How do I find uh, my natural voice if I'm used to imitating others?
Yeah, I've come across this a lot. In fact, I used to do this a lot. I used to have a voice teacher that he said I was a vocal chameleon. I used to imitate.
Right.
But um, it's really a matter of finding your breath, making sure that the breathing is nice and relaxed, that
Mm-hmm.
you're making sure that there's no tension here. And that's one of the things that we do in our vocal work is we really want to eliminate any kind of tension around the vocal area. So kind of from here through
Uh-huh.
here, you want
Right.
to make
Right.
sure that things are nice and relaxed. So, I mean, there's kind of mechanical things that happen when there's tension there and when there's not tension there. And
Right.
so that's one of the things that can really help is just to alleviate some of that tension so everything is nice and relaxed in here. Also, using your resonance, we have it's what we call passive migration. So this is inflection that we go
Mm-hmm.
up and we go down, and the
Mm-hmm.
resonance actually works in our bones. So it moves up as you go higher, and it moves down as you go lower. So if you put your hand here and you go,
Mm-hmm.
ha, right,
Oh, right.
ah, right there, you're going to feel the breastbone or the sternum vibrate, and we call that chest voice. And so there's different registers in your voice, so that come naturally. And that's the thing is you want to let that work naturally rather than to try to imitate somebody else or try to speak out of your what we call your natural range. So
Right.
you might want to try like talk like that. So you know,
It's difficult
I used to teach.
imitating others.
Yeah, I used to teach kindergarten, and I really tried. Yeah, I really tried to speak in a higher. I just couldn't. You know,
Right.
if you're
Right.
speaking,
They tend to listen to those kind of like higher voices.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is that's not your natural. If that's not your natural range, then it's going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to sound uh, produced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing at the other end. If you're speaking in vocal fry, which is kind of like that,
Mm.
like
Right. Right. Right.
kind of a thing, right? You're speaking beyond your low register and it's not
Mm.
supported. So that's going to really cause a lot of vocal fatigue. It's not healthy over time.
Oh.
Yeah. So I really encourage speakers to get underneath it with the breath support, with the support. Make sure you're breathing in your or speaking in your natural range, which you can
Mhm.
increase with practice. I do have exercises for that. So I do have some people that speak kind of in a monotone type of
Mhm.
thing. And so we work on inflection, upward inflection,
Mhm.
downward
Mhm.
inflection, kind of those types of things that are natural to your speaking voice. So,
Right.
yeah, so there's a lot that can go into that.
Right. So, in relation to that, what's a quick tip for calming nerves before speaking in front of people?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you can do. There's one that is kind of a lateral move of moving energy. This is actually a recent study out of Harvard Business School, um, where you go from I'm nervous to I'm excited, and actually it's the
Mhm.
same energy level,
Uh-huh.
just reframing it into a positive rather than what we think is a negative. So it's a
Ah.
matter of perception. So you can actually think, if you're thinking, oh gosh, I'm really nervous about this, it's like, oh, I'm actually really excited because it's the same energy level. The brain, it thinks it's the same. And so it's a lateral move.
Mm-hmm.
If you have more time, and you can do this in your prep, and this is something that I do with my students. If you have really deep problems with nervousness and that kind of thing. I am a I'm a certified hypnotherapist and rapid transformational therapy practitioner. So that we can kind of go through the root causes and all that kind of stuff, and reframing is part of that. But
Mm-hmm.
a shorter path to calmer nerves is what we call centering, and that's where you actually, it's kind of a like a guided meditation almost, where you're
Mm-hmm.
bringing the energy from high in your head down into the center of your body, and that does take a little practice, but there, after you've practiced it for a while, you can actually just get there in a couple of seconds, but it does take a little bit of practice. So it's about a 15-20 minute um, initial practice at the beginning, but you can bring it down, and it gets quicker and quicker and quicker every time you do it.
Mm-hmm. Then it's gonna be easier to speak, isn't it?
It is. I use it all the time. It goes with kind of bringing that energy down, but then you have what we call a process cue. So it could, for me, and I tap, so I use a little NLP at the end. Um,
Oh,
so one of my process cues is I trust my practice, and
right,
preparation, and so
right.
I just
Interesting.
tap it and repeat that, and I'm there. So it's
Interesting.
yeah. So there's a few ways to
It's like
handle
magic.
it. It is, yeah.
All right. Now, next question. How do I stop? What was the question? How do I stop feeling embarrassed about my voice or the way I speak?
Yeah, so this is the work that we do. This is the work that I do with my clients. So we do the technical voice work. We find your natural voice. Um, we get it so you're feeling comfortable with it. I mean, I've heard,
Mm-hmm.
some people have been told terrible things
Mm,
about their
true.
voices,
Yes.
especially women. This is kind of why I focus on women, especially. Is I actually had one client who was told that her voice sounded like an air conditioner, which is, I mean, a horrid thing to say to somebody. Or, if you're constantly being silenced, well, nobody wants to hear you, who are you to speak, that kind of thing. We can really internalize those external voices,
Right.
and they're not our values. And that's the thing is, one of the things that we work on is we work on reframing your self perception into your values rather than external values that you might have heard. But we do the technical work, the vocal work, and that's
Mhm.
a really important part of it. So you're really being able to fully embody your story. So, because if it's coming from the heart, if it's coming from your center, then it's a much more powerful message. So, but first we want to embody the voice. We want to get you so you're resonating, right? You're using the
Right.
body
Right.
to resonate. You're fully breathing into it and breathing, kind of getting down into the body more with the support and the breath, and getting the resonance going. And diction too is very, very important as well.
All
So,
right.
but it
Yeah.
takes it takes some practice, but you can do it.
Right. 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 And they have to, if they want to like make it faster, they can talk to you.
Right? Yeah, definitely.
All right. Yes. So we have more questions, but in the interest of time, we'll wrap up our Q&A here. Thank you so much, Liz, for sharing your valuable insights with us. Now let's continue to the next segment. Here we go. All right. Welcome back. Fantastic fan bams. Our guest expert is Liz Hodge, has shared so many valuable insights in the learn from the expert segment. And one key takeaway today for me is that your voice is more powerful than you think.
Mm,
So start speaking up with confidence and don't let perfectionism hold you back. It's the action, not the perfection, that connects you with your audience.
true.
So, what about you, my fam bam? What was your key takeaway today? You drop it in the comments and share it with us. All right, Liz. Now, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. I know many of our viewers are eager to work on their speaking skills and branding. So, can you share how they can get involved with your program and work directly with you?
Yes, for sure. So most of what I do is online now. So um, it's I work online, and I do some in person, but that's kind
Mhm.
of seems to be the way things are right now. So I do a lot of over online coaching
Right?
as well,
Mhm.
because I live in Los Angeles and things are hard to get around. If you're familiar with LA, it's really hard to get around. And I do have students all over the nation, so uh, that's the kind of the how the way I work at this point. Yeah.
All right. So, where can they like contact you?
Mhm.
Are
So
you in socials?
I'm in social, so you can get a hold of me on LinkedIn. Yep, that's correct. And so that's the best way to get a hold of me. I'm under my website is under construction right now, so
Right.
so so it's a little hard to get a hold of me there. But you can also email me at lizhodgevoicestudio.com. Yep, there you go. Thank you so much. And yeah, so either way is a great way to get a hold of me. So
All
yeah,
right. So that would be LinkedIn and email. All
yeah,
right.
those are the two best ways. Yeah.
All right. To everyone watching or listening today, if you're ready to take the next step with Liz, don't hesitate to reach out to her directly. All right. You can contact her via email at Liz at lizhodgevoicestudio.com or through LinkedIn. Her handle is Liz Hodge.
Yep.
All right. Okay, now before we wrap up this, what's one final piece of advice you'd like to leave with our audience?
Mm. I think the biggest thing that you can do is really get the breath going. I think that's kind of a big key to everything. You know, you might have heard take deep breaths when you're nervous or,
Right.
those types of things, right? So breathe into the hips. You don't want to have shallow breaths. You really want to kind of
Mhm.
really get into the body. So thinking about really letting that be very round, like your body be very round. We're told to kind of pull in and all that kind of stuff. But you really want to make sure that you're breathing down into the hips, breathing into the pelvic floor, and really letting the pelvic floor support the breath. And I think that will help you in so many ways when you're speaking. That's kind of the key to a lot of different things.
All right. Wow. Really great advice, Liz. Very much appreciated.
Yeah. No problem. I love it.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and guiding us through such an important conversation today. This has been a very awesome episode. So we hope to have you once again on the show.
Anytime. I love
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Liz Hodge.
it.
All right, coming up next in Talking Business with Ritz, let me just share that. Uh, Here we go. All right, another insightful episode is awaiting us next week. We will be talking about the reasons you aren't reaching your goals. Mark your calendar on October 5 at 11 a.m. EST, 8 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Mountain, 10 a.m. Central, and if you are on my side of the world, that would be 11 p.m. So please, as usual, DM me your questions to be included in the Q&A segment. All right, and that wraps up today's episode of Talking Business with Rich. To everyone watching or listening, thank you for being part of this journey. Entrepreneurship is about more than business, it's about embracing your story. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. So until next time, Stay safe, stay inspired, and keep pushing forward. This is Ritzel Rectra and our expert guest, Miss Liz Hodge. Stay safe and healthy as we continue talking business with Ritz. Bye, everybody.